photography is not a crime.
Yes, it is a crime.
Hey guys, here we are again in another episode of Pinac TV. It's a rare episode, but we do have a very, very special guest in the studio, and it is James Eric McDonough. We call him Eric, that he goes by Eric, and this is a story that he's going to explain about what happens when you try to hold police accountable.
I was arrested for aggravated stalking and corruption through threatening a civil servant.
Because you were trying to hold this police officer accountable. What's this cop's name?
The cop's name is Alejandro Merguido.
Right. Let's talk about the arrest. It was 2012. They came to your house and...
Well, okay, so the arrest happened on 4/15 of 2013. I was at my kitchen table with my wife, actually going through a public records request that I had gotten, which was the personnel file for this officer, Alejandro Merguido. And as I was going through the file, I hear a chirp out front of my house, and I see a weird light. So me and my wife walk outside to see what's going on, and I believe it was 4 Miami-Dade police officers were outside my fence requesting to speak with me. I asked them what they would like to speak about, and they told me that they would get to that in a minute, but just demanded that I step outside the fence. I asked them several more times, and they refused and continued to demand that I stepped outside the fence. So, not being one to want to disagree with police officers or not follow a lawful order, I stepped outside my fence.
Would you have done it again? If you had to do all that all over again, would you have stepped outside? Because it seems like that's kind of a warning sign. Why do you want me to step outside? What would you do now?
Looking back on it, I don't think I would have. I would have asked them if they had a warrant. If they didn't have a warrant, I would have asked them to leave and advised them they would bring trespassing if they would have continued to stay.
Right, because they had enough sense not to go into your yard, but to invite you outside, and you really can't trust cops. And then you stepped outside, and then what happened?
As soon as I stepped outside my fence, all the officers swarmed around me immediately and told me I was under arrest, and I put my hands behind my back. I asked them if they had an arrest warrant. They told me they did. That later turned out to be false, and I asked them what I had been arrested for, and they told me they would tell me that in a few minutes. They went and escorted me to one of their patrol cars and put me in the back of the patrol car and shut the door, and then went and spoke to my wife for several minutes. When I was in the car, I could not hear anything that was being said. When the officer comes back to the car to drive off, I asked him what I was being arrested for, and he said that he would tell me that when we got to the station. And I mean, at this point, there's been so much history and back and forth, and I've been trying to make complaints that I wasn't sure if I was actually being taken to the station or not, or if they were just going to go and drop me off out in the Everglades. But
because this happened, the arrest was in 4 of 2012. The whole escapade started in 2009.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, yes, sir. The arrest happened in 4/15 of 2013. There was an incident October 29th of 2012, and there was several incidents that happened in early 2009.
Right. So the whole thing started in 2009, and you basically trying to hold this cop accountable, and he did not like that, and you went through his agency, and I don't know what happened after that, but another agency actually responded to you. It wasn't his agency. He works at the Homestead Police Department, which is not really a big department. But then the Miami-Dade Police Department came after you. They've arrested me, Nancy Perez, of course, and this is like one of the largest police departments in the country, really, and actually in Florida. In the
I believe it's the 4th largest.
Right, and they're definitely the largest police department down in Florida and in the Southeast. So they do have a lot of clout, and they follow me on Facebook. They're Homeland Security as well. So what's up, guys? And this is about you. This is for you. And so tell us what happened. So they have they aren't able to tell you what they're going to charge you.
They wouldn't tell me
although they're arresting you.
They wouldn't tell me what they're arresting for. And as I said, when I went to go, the officer came back to the car to go leave. I asked him what he was arresting me for, and he said he would tell me that at the station. When we get to the station, I ask him again. They'll tell me that upstairs. So we take the elevator. When we get upstairs, I ask them again. They'll tell me in a few minutes. They placed me in an interrogation room for about 45 minutes. After about 45 minutes, investigator, I believe it was C. Alvarez.
Were you handcuffed still?
Yeah, I was handcuffed to the bench.
In the interrogation room?
Yes, sir.
Like a felon?
Yes, sir.
Right, like the 48 hours like they do, right?
Exactly.
The TV show?
Exactly.
Except you have not committed any crime.
Not that I'm aware of,
Right.
and not that any Miami-Dade officer would admit to. So after the detective comes into the interrogation room, I ask him what I'm being arrested for, and he tells me he'll get to that in a few minutes. Then he tries to slide me a Miranda waiver form across the table and ask me to sign it. And I inform him that I won't sign anything without first speaking with my attorneys. And you could tell he was upset, that I had said that, but he made the statement that, he wouldn't hold that against me and I had every right to do that. So I then again asked him what I was being arrested for, and he told me that since I had asked to speak with an attorney, he could no longer speak with me, even though him and multiple other officers from the department continued to talk to me and ask me questions.
Right. And how long were you in jail for?
I believe I was at the South District for maybe an hour or two before they placed me into a holding cell. I think I was in the holding cell for another hour or so, and the cell didn't have a toilet before they transferred me to TGK, Turner Knight Jackson.
Right, which is one of the big jails down here. And how long were you there?
I was in TGK for several hours, and then I was finally given my A forms, which means arrest forms, that let me know that I had been arrested for aggravated stalking, corruption through threatening a civil servant. And after I went through the medical check and all their check-in processes, which took several hours.
What did you think when you saw that? Yeah, aggravated stalking and the felony charges.
My heart just completely dropped.
Right.
It clearly said on there was felony charges. I knew both of them were third-degree felonies, and I was looking at 10 years in prison just because I simply asked a police officer to mind his driving through the neighborhood, as I was concerned for the safety of the children and the sanctity of the neighborhood in general. And in this country where we're supposed to be guaranteed our rights to freedom of speech, I just completely appalled and flabbergasted that this would rise to this level because I was merely asking a police officer whose job is to keep safety in the neighborhood to mind his driving and the safety.
But of course, there are procedures. You went to the FBI and everything was resolved, right?
No, sir.
Oh,
no, sir.
Okay.
Sorry,
guys. I was being sarcastic, but you know how it goes. All right.
So in October 29th, the week before October 29th, this officer had almost ran me off the road and ran another driver off the road at the same time. And I was walking down the street and I happened to see him in his front yard speaking with his lawnman. So I motioned to get his attention to ask if I could speak with him. He had requested that I wait for a minute. When he was finished speaking, he came up and approached me. And I let him know that I had spoken with him before in the past about his driving and behavior. And the week before, he had almost ridden me off the road. And I asked him to please slow down and drive respectfully and obey the law. And he immediately begins to go off on me and ask me what my problem with him is, if he's ever written me a ticket.
What were his words?
Jail.
His exact words?
Yeah, I've talked to you twice already about your actions. And the other day, you almost ran me off the road. Could you please drive respectfully and obey the law when you're here?
What is your problem with me, man? I'm at home on my day off. What is your problem with me?
I just realized it was your... You almost ran me off the road the other day. I've caught you littering the neighborhood. On 324th Street. I've seen you throw litter out your window. I've seen you run through stop signs.
What is your problem with
my problem? I have no problem with you.
Did I write you a ticket? Did I
No, you continually violate the law. Can you just respect the law and not speed and not stop and not run through stop signs down here? I would appreciate that. The next time I will go to your supervisor. The last 3 times I didn't.
The next time you come to my house, this is my house. You have the right to be here.
I'm on the property. I'm asking you to please obey the law. I'm asking you to please obey the law, sir. The conversation was over, so I walk away. I get maybe about 2 blocks down the street, and he chases me down. When he gets to me, he slams on brakes and tells me to stop right there.
He chases you down in the patrol car?
In his patrol car, yes, sir.
And he's off duty?
He's off
out
duty,
of uniform?
Out of uniform, outside of his jurisdiction. He's in Homestead jurisdiction, it's his police department, but we're in unincorporated Dade County. So outside of his jurisdiction.
He lives a mile away from Homestead, right?
Roughly a mile or 2 west of Homestead.
Okay, so he pulls you over, or he just runs up to you, drives up to you?
He runs up to me, slams on his brakes, and he tells me to stop right there, and if I leave, he's going to arrest me. Then he gets out of his car and he tells me that he's going to show me that you don't bother police officers.
What were his words?
I'm going to show you.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact word before or after that, but I remember he said, "I'm going to show you," in a very threatening and intimidating manner. And then he made a phone call, which I'm assuming was to the Homestead and Miami-Dade police departments. About 5 minutes after his phone call, Homestead police officers start showing up, which again, it's outside their jurisdiction. Total 7 Homestead officers arrived, and I believe 4 Miami-Dade officers arrived. So it was about 11 officers that held me on my street for a little over an hour and a half from this incident. They actually called out 2 of my neighbors who are police officers, one of them that I'm friends with. I believe they did this, just in a further attempt to, intimidate me or frighten me or embarrass me or shame me, and just to show me.
So you had 11, 12, 13 cops there because you told this other cop, please don't speed through the neighborhood.
Yes, sir. I believe it was 11 to 12. At one point, I know I counted 8 police cars other than Officer Merguido's car, so that brings it to 9 police cars. They called out 2 of my neighbors who were police officers, so that takes it to a...
Okay, now you were saying earlier you had recorded some of it, but you did not want to record here because you did not want them to delete the initial recording.
I've recorded a lot of things, and I have a lot of other recordings too that I might or might not release later. At this point, after speaking with my attorneys, they're afraid for me to release too much, since this will most likely be going to civil litigation, as well as possibly criminal litigation.
Right, and of course you don't want to release it. So, but you do have some that we are going to show you. So then what happened?
So then the officers are there. After about 30 minutes or so, Miami-Dade officer, supposedly a supervisor, Lieutenant Alex Diaz de Villegas, he shows up and speaks with the other officers for a few minutes, and then comes over and speaks with me for a few minutes and asks me my story. I tell him, when I finished telling him my story, I asked him very explicitly, I said, "Sir, have I violated or broken any law, rule, ordinance, statute, regulation, technically or otherwise?" To which he responded, "No, and that's why I've not arrested you yet." And then he asked me for my driver's license. I was wearing cargo shorts and I had my wallet in my right pocket, so I pulled out my wallet, I give him my license, and
but you were not under, let's remind our readers, he was under no legal obligation to provide your identification.
No, not if they cannot.
You're not driving.
No, I wasn't driving, I was walking. And in Florida, if they can't articulate a reasonable suspicion that you've committed a crime, you're not required to identify yourself in their law. You're absolutely correct with that, sir.
But you're trying to be cooperative, I assume.
I was very afraid. I thought that if I even sneezed in the wrong direction, I was going to get Rodney Kinged by these police officers. They were very rude, very nasty, and very aggressive and threatening and intimidating. It goes on for a little bit longer, and the lieutenant tells me that I'm not to walk past my street, past a stop sign, and there's the stop sign at 202 Avenue.
You were given a trespass order. Yeah. Now, this is a crazy thing. That he lives down the street from this cop. He told the cop, please don't speed through my neighborhood. His buddies come up, 2 agencies, and he's given a trespass order not to cross the stop sign where this cop lives, because suddenly now the cop owns everything in his mind, and he's not allowed to cross that stop sign, although it is a public street, and he has not committed any crime under threat of arrest. Is that correct?
That is correct. Me and the officer both live on Southwest 324th Street, and 202 Avenue separates us, and there's a stop sign there.
Right.
And the officer told me, he's like, you can walk to the stop sign, but when you get to the stop sign, you need to make a right or you make a left. If you go straight to the stop sign and you end up on Officer Merguido's block of 324th Street for any reason, we will arrest you for criminal trespass.
And this is a stop sign that he runs on a regular basis, right? He doesn't stop at that stop sign.
That one I'm not sure about. That's a stop sign at 324th and 202 Avenue. The stop sign at 197th Avenue and 320th Street is where I've seen him run through the stop sign more than once, and where he almost ran me off the road, and also where I've seen him throw litter out of it.
We have a cop who lies and gets disciplined for it, so you know he's actually more of a liar than other cops who do it on a regular basis.
Another interesting thing is he was doing an off-duty job. I believe it was for a Home Depot, and the employees there didn't like him and didn't like his demeanor, and asked for a different officer to cover the off-duty shift there. When he found out about it, he was so upset, he went and wrote 3 of them false tickets that a sustained internal affairs complaint said was official misconduct, and he did those with malicious
Internal affairs actually sustained a complaint?
Internal affairs
Amazing.
actually sustained a complaint. However, his supervisor so procedurally botched the investigation that they couldn't prosecute, because his supervisors did not recognize the severity of his actions.
But the fact that your wife's internal affairs complaint is not there leads one to wonder, like, how many other people's complaints disappeared.
No, definitely. I mean, it's definitely.
And it sounds like there's plenty as it is, but then there's probably many
also,
more.
Also, his personnel file, I'd like you to know, I've found records of him being in at least 8 accidents in police vehicles, and at least 6 injury reports being generated from his driving, which I think really aligns right with what I was saying. His driving is erratic and made me fear for myself. And then, so then I go and try to talk to him, and he also has IA problems for overreacting to the public, as well as he almost got contempt of court for being disrespectful for the judge. He becomes disrespectful with me.
He got contempt of court?
He almost got contempt of court for being disrespectful to a judge. But
what was that about?
I guess so many years ago, they were in a court meeting, and some people were arguing back and forth, and I think the police officers were saying something to some people who were making statements, and the judge told everybody to stay out of it, and he would deal with it. And then I guess some different people continued to talk, and so this officer interjected himself into it, and the judge said, "I told you that I would deal with it. Leave the court. I want you to come back and give me a formal apology." As he's leaving the court, he's like, "Yeah, right, whatever." And I mean, so he doesn't have a very great personality. Actually, in his from Homestead, in his personnel file, in his evaluations, several of the officers have actually made comments that he is overrated in the area of interpersonal skills.
So his own officers are criticizing him?
Yes, sir.
Okay, he went from West Miami to Hialeah, and then did he go to Homestead after that?
And after Hialeah, he went and worked as a security guard for, I believe, about 4 or 5 years before he was able to get on with Homestead. And another interesting thing, and when he got on with Homestead, when he did his polygraph for employment, he states that he in his life had never ever used any illegal drugs, but several months either before or after that, on his application, he stated that he had used to smoke marijuana, which I'm sure nobody cares about a cop smoking marijuana 20 years before employment. Right. The big part is he lied and contradicted himself on his application for employment.
He's not even a good liar.
No, he's not even a good liar. Yeah. It was several months afterwards. And I have the public records. I'll give you that. You can put them up as well to show that. He also continued to veiled threaten me that if I tried to continue to bring this forward, that it wouldn't be good for me. The same way Lieutenant D.S.D. Villegas did. These guys really just don't want this evidence out there.
So where do we go for now? Are you scared? Are you going to back down? Are you going to move forward?
I'm very afraid. One of the biggest fears I have is that I'll continue to be retaliated against, or even it'll rise to the level that they have me swatted. I'm not sure if you're familiar with swatting. That's where we go and we call in false reports to people's houses and have the SWAT team kick in their door at 4 o'clock in the morning, and typically they end up being shot. I'm afraid that could happen, and then it'll be an accident, and however they pull that through. I tried to go to Miami-Dade Internal Affairs again, and they intimidated against me, and I believe conspired against my rights. I had a Miami-Dade cop come to my Citizens Crime Watch meeting a couple weeks ago.
And just for background, the Miami-Dade, a major in the Miami-Dade Internal Affairs unit was arrested on charges of
Lieutenant. It was Lieutenant
on charges of drug trafficking and murder plotting.
He was just picked up by the FBI. He was plotting murders. He was feeding sensitive information from the DEA to the drug dealers. He was helping them run drugs. He was doing a whole bunch of bad stuff. Also in that same unit, there's 3 or 4 other officers in the last several months that have been kicked out for other scandals. And with Mata being arrested, there's supposedly several more officers from that department are going to be arrested soon.
So where are we at now?
Right now, I'm just here with you and hoping that hopefully your viewers can listen to this and maybe we can get enough leverage or support going that forces somebody to bring criminal charges here.
Do you have attorneys involved?
I have attorneys involved, and however, if you know how attorneys work, and this is not against attorneys, just how they work. I understand everybody's got to make a buck, but they typically only want to get involved if you've been arrested to defend you in your case, or if you're suing civilly to get money. And I most likely will be suing them for money, and I've had one of my attorneys file letters of notice of intent to file a claim with them just so I can sue them if I need to. But when you sue the police, what happens is insurance company pays for it. Nobody ever gets in any trouble, and the status quo continues unchanged. I swore an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States the same way these officers did. And money is not what's important to me. What's important to me is that justice is served, and that, these officers who are supposed to protect and serve cannot just willy-nilly go and violate people's rights and violate citizens. I've spent an enormous amount of time, energy, money, and resources in this case, and I've pretty much felt like I've had people at every level from every agency piss in my face. And it really scares me and upsets me, Carlos. I know I'm not the smartest person or the richest guy or whatever, but I feel I'm well above average in most of these categories for being able to bring a case forward. And if I'm not able to bring a case forward with spending hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars, and I have documented corruption and recording, I have no idea how the average citizen would ever have any chance at recourse or redress.
Now, what is your background? What do you do for a living?
I have my associates in ophthalmic dispensing, making glasses and contacts. I have a bachelor's in interdisciplinary science. I majored in chemistry, biology, math, physics, and optical theory. I have the equivalent of a master's in organic synthesis, and I got my PhD in chemical thermodynamics from University of Miami. I work for the federal government in the legal field. I'm not an attorney myself. I work with many attorneys and argue with attorneys on a regular basis. I don't want to say the agency I work for just because this is me doing this on myself, and I don't want to come across as.
But here you are, a man with access to. I mean, you work for the government. You're very educated, and still you're hitting a brick wall and trying to get justice.
It's just brick wall after brick wall after brick wall. I mean, this seems like it goes from the lowly patrol officer to their sergeants, to their lieutenants, their supervisors, internal affairs, the chief of police for Homestead, the director for Miami-Dade Police Department. The director for Miami-Dade Police Department has also been copied on the letter writing campaign and the letters that I've been sending out. And he has either been non-responsive to my letters or just completely not responded at all. As well as Major Byrd.
And we're probably one of the things is they got so many people like yourself that they just ignore it. It's just same old for them. It's just business as usual. And they just hope you guys go away, and it doesn't look like you're going to go away.
I'm not the kind of guy that goes away. The only thing that would probably make me go away is a bullet in my head, Carlos. Like I said, I swore an oath to the Constitution. The only other oath I've sworn in my life was to my wife, to love, honor, cherish, protect her, and be faithful to her to the day I died. And with my morals and my ethics, I can't see how I could neglect one without neglecting the other. And I mean, money is not important. The only thing that I have that these police could never take from me is my word, my honesty, and my integrity. If they would have been successful in their actions with getting me charged with felonies, I would have lost my job, I would have lost my career, I would have lost my PhD, I would have lost my house, I would have lost my wife, I would have lost my family, I would have lost everything that I worked for.
Those charges, they come with pretty heavy prison terms.
Up to 10 years is what I was looking at. But if you have a felony violation, you're not allowed to work for the federal government, and you're also, in my understanding, not allowed to hold a professional license in the United States if you have a felony conviction. So pretty much everything I've worked for, I've spent like 10 or 11 years in college after high school and picked up about $100,000 in debt to get where I'm at, and they could have been wiped out overnight.
All right. Well, you want to say anything else about this?
I just would like to thank everybody so much for your time and for listening to my story, and anything you could do to help, or if anybody would like to respond, I'll put my email address out there. My email is phd2b05@gmail.com. Please, nothing harassing, but feel free to contact me with any suggestions or stories or anything else you have. And if when the story comes out, I'm sure we'll probably put numbers for some of these officers and police departments, and anybody that would like to take their time just to call to question, just to see why, or let these departments know that us as citizens, we're just really disgusted with these actions. I would greatly appreciate that, and I would thank you with all my heart.
Cool. Yes.